Hello and welcome to Dexter New Blood, Episode 3 spoiler discussion from myself, Jacob Bartley. This is the Showtime Dexter series, and we are back with a new episode of Dexter New Blood, Episode 3, which is titled Smoke Signals. I am your host, Jacob Bartley, and this is Talking Dex with Jacob Bartley. Thank you, everybody who is checking out this video, whether you are a Dexter fan or not. I really appreciate your support. I already saw a comment from Star Drew earlier in the day, and I guess I'll start with that. I normally have been doing this show at 10 a.m. On Monday mornings because the episodes come out on Sunday nights, so it works out. Couple things. Had an event to go to last night, and so even though I did watch the episode pretty late last night, I wanted to watch it again this morning and really focus on it with like a clear mind. So that's one of the reasons why I'm doing it, because I normally don't rewatch it right before I do this review. But also, I'm off this week from work, well, regular work. I'm off from the school that I work at, so I don't have to be there, so I'm able to do the show a little bit later. But I am trying to stick to that 10 a.m. Showtime for these Dexter reviews. But let's get into it. Dexter New Blood, Episode 3, titled Smoke Signals. And I'll say right off the bat, this is a good episode. I liked it. There's some things in here that I loved, some things that I don't really care about. But overall, it's a really, really good episode. And I'm starting to think that just like in the other seasons of Dexter, there were episodes where it was all building towards something. And maybe the individual episodes aren't as satisfying as the whole season or the whole story arc being seen to fruition. So I think that's kind of what we got going on here. The premiere was excellent. The premiere was exactly what I was looking for with this new version of Dexter. And we got that, and they knocked it out of the park, and they had to, because this was the first Dexter we've been getting in 8 years, right? But now what they can do is they can start telling the story. And they started it in episode 1, but episode 1 had to feel special. It had to feel grand, or it had to feel like, yes, Dexter's back. And we got that. But now we got to tell this story properly. And I think it's doing a good job of that. There's a few things that I want to talk about specifically. So this episode starts off, the search is continuing for Matt Caldwell, Kirk Caldwell's son, played by Clancy Brown, who we can see right here. There's Clancy Brown and Dexter standing right there, but we will get to him in a minute here. But yes, they're looking for this. They're still looking for Matt, who we know as viewers is buried under Dexter's fire pit. So that's very troubling, right? On top of that, his long lost son is back into his life, back in town, and today's the day he's taking him to school. So Harrison takes Harrison to school to meet the principal, and the principal is kind of like, okay, if you were in foster care, where was your dad? And Harrison bails him out because Dexter did not have a response ready for that question, right? He just didn't. And Harrison, again, showing how Dexter like he is, he's able to get himself out of situations. He's quick in coming up with responses to get out of things. So just like we've seen Dexter do a million times on the show. And Dexter's a little bit rusty right now. He's not used to this. And Harrison seems like he's been doing it his entire life to survive. So that was pretty interesting there. But yes, so he takes Harrison to school, and then he comes back, and they go back to the crime scene because there's been a development, right? They had those heat signal cameras. At first, we think they had real cameras, but they're like heat signals to track animals, track wildlife, and they have these heat signals of Matt in the woods and Dexter in the woods, but they don't know that it's them for sure. They're able to tell that it's Matt because he just bought a big fancy rifle from the fishing game store, right? So, and they could see what kind, like they could see the shape of the gun. They know that that's him. They don't know who the other man is. He has a very common rifle that hundreds of people own in the town, but that rifle that Matt bought is specific. It's the only one in the store. So they were able to tell, which was pretty clever. They gave us a scare of them seeing Dexter and exposing Dexter without actually doing it. So that's pretty cool. That was pretty cool. One of my favorite scenes in this episode and of the series so far is when the new CSI guy comes and breaks down the crime scene just like Dexter used to. I absolutely love this. They call in CSI. This guy comes in. Dexter's, of course, or I could call him Jim Lindsay, I should say, which is his fake name if you didn't know. Jim Lindsay is like, hey, can I watch you work the crime scene? I'm a big fan of those CSI shows. And of course, Dexter, part of him wants to stay ahead of the cops on this search for Matt, but also he is wanting to just be around that again. He misses it. You could see his eyes light up and he smiles once he sees the equipment. So that was such a wonderful scene. And the best part about it is when Angela, Dexter's girlfriend and the chief of police, I got a photo of her right here, Angela, which is shaping out to be one of the best characters on this show. She's awesome. But yes, so she's like, what happened here? And the CSI guy explains what he thinks happened. First of all, just like Dexter used to on the Miami show, we should call it Dexter Miami, Dexter Iron Lake. There we go. There's the differentiations, or the original series, whatever you want to call it. What Dexter used to do on the original series is he would be able to look at a crime scene, and we assume, like, for the most part, he knew exactly what happened, exactly how things went down. And this guy was breaking down his crime scene and explaining it. And I love how Dexter's voiceover is like, come on, fail me now. And or he's like, this guy, damn it, this guy's good. So honestly, that was probably the highlight of the episode for me. I absolutely love that. There's a couple other things that I love. Now that I think about it, I really did like this episode. I just think that neither of the past two episodes have lived up to the premiere, but that's okay. We want the premiere to be amazing. We want the finale to be amazing. We want all the episodes to be good, but like if the premiere and the finale are absolutely incredible and the rest of it's solid, then that's good enough. So that's kind of what we got going so far. So Jim/Dexter gets called back to his son's school. And we saw this in the trailer that Harrison scored higher than anyone ever has on basically the placement exam, right? To see what levels he's at in his school stuff. I did think it was weird that I know Harrison is pretending to be Jim's son, right? But I'm surprised they didn't like fake an identity for him. Like they got his real transcripts from when he was really attending school. Because the principal was saying, oh, he used to have a 3.8, then he went down to 1.2, then he went up to a 3.0. And that's kind of fishy, right? But then he's like, my stepmom died. Okay. That's a good reason right there. But they're using Harrison's real identity while using Dexter's fake identity, Jim Lindsay, which is very interesting. Like, if he has his transcripts or he got them sent from the school, he obviously has to have a birth certificate and all of that stuff to enroll in school, right? If they're getting so specific to send transcripts, then I'm assuming that he has a birth certificate, right? So does it say Harrison Morgan on it? Or did they make a fake one that says Harrison Lindsay? The episode moves pretty quick and they don't got a lot of time to explain everything, but that's something to think about. A few things on Harrison acing that test. And that just made me think that, hey, the Miami series, the original series, was very detailed and they had time, right? They had like 20 episodes per season or more. So they had time to tell the story. This new show, New Blood, kind of feels like they're trying to squeeze a 22 episode season into a 10 episode season. I'm liking it so far. Loved the premiere, but that's just an observation. Just an observation. But back to the Harrison taking the test. Now we know that Dexter is extremely intelligent, and obviously part of it has to do with him being a psychopath, right? It's just part of it. And he's always done well in school. Obviously, he became a blood splatter analyst. Extremely intelligent people do that. So, and you got to go through a lot of schooling and all of that to even become that. So, obviously, we know Dexter is very intelligent, and it's due to his lizard brain, which is what he calls it in the original series. Is like, yeah, it's basically his killer instinct, why he's so efficient, why he's so neat, why he's so smart, all this stuff, right? It's his lizard brain. So for lack of a better way of explaining it, it looks like we got a little bit of lizard brain going on with Harrison. Now, Harrison could still have Dexter's, style of carrying himself and his intelligence, but not be a killer. So just because Harrison's extremely smart and seems to be able to handle himself in a fight as well, which we'll talk about in a minute. All these things are hinting towards us that, oh, he's very much like Dexter. But I think if it ends up that Harrison isn't a killer like his dad or doesn't have that urge inside him, then I think that all these things were meant to show us that, okay, yeah, he's like his dad, but he is definitely not. That doesn't mean he's a killer too. It doesn't mean he's a killer. And we got Dexter and Harrison right here. I'll tell you what, I love the casting of Jack Alcott as Harrison. I listened to an interview with him on the Dexter Wrap Up podcast. It's like the official podcast of this show that's with the producers and the writers and all that. And first of all, he was wonderful on that episode, but also he is absolutely slaughtering this role. The way he carries himself, the way he is resentful towards his dad, and he just keeps it consistent and keeps it going. The way he plays, oh yeah, I'm smart. Like, oh, I took the exam. It was cake. Like that. It's just, he's killing it. He's definitely killing it. And I love Angela. I love all the stuff going on, a lot of the stuff going on. But I think Jack Alcott as Harrison has been my favorite part of this series so far. And he continues that in this show, a lot of stuff. So one thing that I'll talk about really quick is, so basically on top of the CSI coming, they call in search dogs. So obviously the search dogs are going to find Matt's body under his pit right away. So what Dexter does is he digs up Matt's body, takes his sweater vest out, and then runs it around the whole entire forest to keep the dogs busy, right? Very smart, like Dexter used to do. Pretty smart, because I was like, how is he going to get out of that? He has to get that body out of there ASAP. Which he did. And yeah, they're stacking up the odds against him. um, but yeah, so last episode and even the episode before, they mentioned that these girls keep going missing in the town, right? And they're typically runaways or women who don't have a home necessarily, that are passing through. Okay. So they kept showing us last episode, they kept showing us this girl in this hotel, and she drank the champagne, woke up, and then there was no door handle on the door. And it's like she's stuck in some lair and somebody's watching her, right? So They haven't shown us who that is. We know it's an older white man. That's what it looks like, at least. And they're throwing us off. There's two people that they're making us think this is. Possibility number one is Kurt Caldwell, who's played by Clancy Brown. And option number two is Edward Olson, which I'm an idiot. I should have brought up a picture of him because he's a pretty big part of this episode. I forget the name of the man who plays him, but I know he was on Lost as well. Uh, so it's interesting because basically this girl, we've been following her since episode 1. Whoever this is plays a game with these girls, locks them up for a couple days, and then releases them and hunts them and shoots them down, right? As this man's getting ready, it kind of looks like Clancy Brown more. Like last episode, I would have said it was Edward Olson for sure. But I'm not so sure anymore. I mean, we'll see. Like this, because the man who puts on the white mask and all that and shoots the girl down, the one keeping them hostage, is he's not like his body size looked more like Kurt Caldwell. But at the same time, I don't think it would be that easy. Like the guy who son he killed, who's like we're gonna be one of the main antagonists of the show because he's probably gonna at some point catch on to some type of clue that Dexter killed Matt, right? So I don't think that you would have him be the dad of a victim of Dexter who's just gonna, once he finds out, is going to come rain down hell on Dexter. Also be the guy who's the killer, kidnapping these girls and hunting them, right? I don't know. But visually, I would say my money's on Clancy Brown. But story-wise, I think it's Edward Olson. But it could be somebody else that we're not even thinking of. If anybody wants to leave me their theories, I'm curious about that. All right, so Deb is in this episode, but not as much as you think. And this image, I don't think this image is from this episode, but just wanted to show Deborah here. Deb is not in the show or in this episode as much as we would have thought based on the first two. She was in the first two pretty heavily. She had a couple scenes here. They were okay. I mean, I love that she's there. She has to be there. So amazing, right? We got Jennifer Carpenter in the series, even though the character's dead. That's great. So that works. But so last week I was a little annoyed with her because she was just screaming at him, taunting him, laughing at him the whole time. I guess a lot of people liked that. It was okay. I liked her a lot in the first episode, but this one was good. Like it was more back to kind of like the first episode style. A little bit mixed in there, a little devious in a way as well. So we'll see. We'll see. She's kind of like in his head now. She knows everything that he's doing, right? Because it's him, is his subconscious. So when he's talking to her, she's like, "Oh, putting the scent of Matt out in the woods with the jacket, the vest was smart, but you got to get rid of the body." And it's kind of like in his head, Deborah's still okay with him being a killer, and which she never really accepted in the long run. So that's interesting. Yeah. So one other thing that people have been talking about and wondering is with Angela, and Angela is the chief of police and Dexter's girlfriend, played by Julia Jones. She's killing it in this role. And look, Dexter is obviously my favorite character in the show, but that's obvious. Other than Harrison, Angela's probably my second favorite character after Harrison, right? Because Dexter obviously is number one. So leave him aside, Harrison's number one. And Angela's a really good character as well. And I just like the way she carries herself. I like her as a cop, as a mother, and as a girlfriend. She's great. But it's hinted throughout the episode so far that she lost somebody named Iris. People wondered, is Iris her daughter? And that's why she is so protective over Audrey, who's her adopted daughter. And something happened to Iris. She went missing, or they assume she ran away. But she has a discussion with the woman, and she's like, when you and Iris were younger, you used to talk about this and that. So, and somebody did speculate this before. I'm not the first one to think of this. I think it's a sister, or maybe it's a friend. It's somebody that she really, really cared about that went missing. And I'm guessing what we're going to find out is whoever this mysterious man is hunting down these girls, kidnapping these girls, is going to be responsible for what happened to Iris, which will lead to her wanting to take him down and maybe being okay with Dexter killing him or whatever the case is. So I'm all for that. That storyline's looking to shape up pretty nice. There's a lot here to talk about. Okay, I want to talk about Harrison and how he helps this kid. So there's a couple things going on with Harrison in this episode. Obviously, he's going back to school. He took the test. He's a super genius. We find out he's one of the cops is tells him to try out for the wrestling team. He's doing that. But those kids that he hung out with in episode 2, they are kind of the jocks, the popular boys of the school, right? And they're picking on this kid whose name is Ethan. Nerdy kid Ethan, right? Typical story. They're texting Ethan pretending to be a girl and kind of catfishing him. And Harrison's like, that's messed up. And he goes and helps them. And they get back at the popular kids. And when one of them, the main guy, tries to come at Ethan, Harrison grabs him by the throat and says, leave him alone or I do this to you every day. And he's like choking on him and then throws him to the side. The other dude comes up and Harrison's like, what? So this scene, look, I always appreciated how Dexter was such a badass in the original series. He would take on and fight all these different guys and even men who are much bigger than him. And I was like, Dexter could be a UFC fighter. He's so, and Doak says that he took advanced Taekwondo, right? We know Dexter took advanced Taekwondo when he was in college, all that stuff, right? So he's very capable. Looks like his son Harrison is too. Hey, Star Drew, thank you so much for stopping by. Maybe watch Dexter one day for yourself. Maybe it might not be for you because it is pretty violent. It's not for everybody. But thank you for stopping by. I really appreciate your support. And thanks for checking in earlier when I kept pushing back the time. No, I wish Keith were on these because he doesn't watch Dexter, so or else he would be on these. But yes, but Harrison is such a badass. He's such a badass, and he's just like a little Dexter, except the killing yet. So we'll see. And I'm telling you what, this kid, Jack Alcott, watch out for him. He is an incredible performer because somebody who doesn't know Dexter or never seen Dexter might watch this and say, oh, that guy is, he's kind of carrying himself the same way Michael C. Hall is. And that's just how he is or something. But no, this kid is literally like, he's putting on a performance. Like he studied Michael C. Hall and he watched Dexter and he studied the series. And he's, he lived with Dexter until he was 5 in the show. When you're that young, you're watching the adult role models around you, right? And you mold the way you carry yourself after those adults around you. Like my mannerisms, the way I walk, the way I lay down, all those things. My mom tells me all the time, like it reminds her of my dad. And so like I modeled the way I carry myself after the male that was there when I was that young, right? So Harrison would have watched his dad when he was growing up until he was 5. And by the time he's 5, like he's already he is who he is, right? So he in the show, Harrison would be just like Dexter, right? And try to carry himself just like Dexter. So in real life, the actor Jack Alcott is doing that, and he's copying Michael C. Hall's mannerisms as Dexter, and it's just so good that you can tell how excited I am about that. Uh, Harrison also has a storyline going on with Audrey. It kind of ties in after that whole altercation, and Audrey is Angela's daughter, which I don't have a picture of Audrey yet, but I'm gonna have more images next time. I only had time to gather a few, but so it's basically look, Dexter and Audrey are dating, so they're not married, so they're not really step siblings. So it's not weird. Let's not go there, people. I already hear people like, can we not have, sibling romances? But they're not siblings. They're already basically adults and their parents are just dating. So they're not siblings at all. Like, not even close. Uh, so long story short, they have an interaction. They have some good conversations. Her car breaks down. He goes to get some help. While she's waiting, this guy, Olson, who I talked about earlier, the billionaire who is like a lot of people hate, including Audrey hates him because he owns the oil companies that are damaging the planet. Okay, so that's basically where we're at with that. But so that makes me believe because he's in this position of power, he would be able to be the guy who's kidnapping those girls, right? And hunting them down. So he shows up, he talks to her, they have not an argument, but a feisty conversation about he offers her some help, but he's obviously being like just being artificial about it. And she's like, I don't want any help from you. And he leaves, right? So that was, and basically what Audrey and Harrison were doing, they were going to get that white buck that Matt killed. And they wanted to take it back to the reservation so it could have a proper funeral and all that, which they did, and which the episode ends on. But before that, we have, okay, there is, yes, which is so funny, Star Drew, that you say that, because in this episode, Dexter's like out in the woods looking for a place to hide the body, right? He still has the body under his fire pit. And this cracked me up so much. He's in a cave, right? He's like, this cave will do. And then a bear comes out. He runs out. He falls on the ground. He's like, oh my goodness, there was a bear in there. And then so he's still like, his main objective for the day is to find a place to hide the body. His girlfriend Angela calls him and she's like, hey, I'm gonna make dinner tonight. You want to come over? He's like, no, can we do it another night? I'm really exhausted. And she's like, okay, but Harrison's coming over with Audrey and Dexter. He puts the phone down and he goes like he screams. He doesn't actually say it, but he mouths it, the F word. It is so funny. But anyways, that leads to they are literally having dinner together, the four of them, but it's not a double date. It's just like Dexter even calls it, this is my new family, basically having a family dinner. So after that dinner is when they go get the buck, take the buck to the reservation, and they attend its like funeral basically. And Dexter and Harrison get back in the car, and it was such a sweet moment there. Because earlier when Harrison passed the placement exam, like high score ever, the principal was like, he cheated, like he has to retake the test. And Dexter's like, okay, fine, yeah, retake the test. And Harrison's like, thanks for having my back, dude. And later on, Dexter's like, I'm sorry I didn't have your back earlier. From now on, I'm on your side. And then Harrison says, thanks, Dad. And Michael C. Hall with his voiceover says, Dad, my new favorite word. And it's like, as a Dexter fan, that is so heartwarming because I I said last episode that, or last couple episodes, that once Harrison was born on the show, that was his main priority. He was always talking about Harrison. Everything he did was for Harrison. And then he had to abandon him. And now he gets to be a dad again. And he gets to have Harrison. And they just put them both in this new environment. And it's working pretty well for me. But that's not where the episode ends. Dexter finally realizes, oh, I'm going to go burn the body in a furnace. So he gets rid of the body, possibly leaving evidence behind. Who knows? We know he's rusty. He gets rid of the body. He's driving back home and he sees Kurt, who is played by Clancy Brown. He sees Kurt in the street, obviously drunk and celebrating. And he says, hey, like, what's going on? And he's like, my boy, he's alive. And he says that he FaceTimed with his son, which we know is not true because we know his son is dead. So he's creating this false optimism, maybe showing that he's probably going to say, Matt told me where he is and we got to go find him. So to keep the search going for his son, I think where this is coming from, or he's just so in denial that his son is gone. So that's where we are. It's going to come down to a clash between Clancy Brown and Dexter, between Kurt and Dexter. And I can't wait. We're going to find out what's going on with this guy kidnapping girls and shooting them down. There's going to be drama continuing with the family dynamic between Harrison and with Angela and her daughter. I'm liking the show so far. As a big Dexter fan, I'm very satisfied, and we'll see what happens next week on episode 4. But until then, I'm going to go and head out. If you like Dexter, you're a big Dexter fan, subscribe to the Bartley and Barnes YouTube channel. This is a YouTube channel I do with my buddy Keith Barnes, where we talk about movies, television, and entertainment and life. Whatever comes our way, we talk about it. We're going to be doing spoiler discussions on all the movies that we watch. So subscribe if you're a film fan or a TV fan, but definitely if you're a Dexter fan, because Talking Dex with Jacob Bartley will be held on this YouTube channel. And we will continue talking Dexter if you're a Dexter fan, and not just the show. We'll talk books. We'll talk the original series, all that good stuff. You can find me on Twitter at Jacob Bartley824. Thank you all for watching. Leave me your thoughts on the episode in the comments section. Thank you, Stardrew, for stopping by. You did leave another comment here. I wonder if Brown will kill Dexter family or one off and let them live. All right. So I think once Kurt finds out that Dexter killed his son, or that Jim Lindsay killed his son, he's going to go after Harrison. He's going to say an eye for an eye. You took my son, I take yours. I think that's what's going to happen. But I don't think Harrison's going to die. There's no way. Dexter lost his wife. He lost his sister. He lost friends. There's no way. He lost Hannah, who was his second love in life, who was Harrison's stepmom. There's no way they kill Dexter, or they kill Harrison. But we'll see. We'll see how it goes. I mean, that doesn't mean Angela's safe or anything. So we'll see how it goes. Thank you, Star Drew. And thank you, everybody, for watching. I'll see you all next time.